This is Debt Free in 30, where every week we take 30 minutes and get practical advice from industry experts about personal finance and living debt-free. Here's your host, Doug Hoyes.
I have nothing against credit cards. If I'm going to the store to buy something for $200, I'd rather carry a credit card than $200 in cash. That's why a credit card is a good substitute for cash. And you may even be able to earn some points or other rewards for paying with a credit card. Used prudently, a credit card may also help you improve your credit score, which may lower your borrowing costs on big ticket items like a car loan or a house mortgage. Credit cards themselves are not a problem, but credit card debt is. If you don't pay your balance in full at the end of the month, you get hit with interest charges, which on a typical credit card can be almost 20%, and a store credit card or a gas company credit card can have an interest rate of 25% or higher. So how do you use a credit card wisely? What should you know about how credit cards work before you apply for a new credit card? I'm here today with one of our accredited credit counselors, Diane Cunha, to talk about credit cards and credit card basics. So Diane, welcome to Debt Free in 30.
Thank you for having me.
So you're a first-time guest here on Debt Free in 30.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like you to start by giving the listeners a quick overview of your background.
Well, I've been in the financial field, so to speak, for about 7 years now. I worked at a bank for 3.5. I also worked for 2 not-for-profit counseling agencies as a credit counselor.
So you worked at a bank, and I don't want you to tell me what bank it was. I mean, I know, but it's not relevant here. What was that like?
Overall, it was a good experience. I learned a lot about finances. I learned a lot about what options are there for people. But there was the aspect of sales with the bank. There was the aspect of you need to make sales in order to make the bank money.
Yeah, so you're advising people on, well, you've got to get this credit card, you got to do this, you got to do that. And we've talked about that on this show before. When Sandy Martin was on, we talked about that as well. So obviously there's an element there. But okay, let's get back to the present day. So what is it you do here at Hoyes Michaels then?
So I do a wide range of things. So I am a credit counselor. I see people during their consumer proposals or bankruptcy sessions. So during that time period, you are required to meet with a credit counselor as a requirement for discharge duties. What we talk about is budgeting. We talk about reestablishing credit. We talk about the future because there's nothing we can essentially do with what happened in the past. We want to move forward from everything. So we do talk about how to reestablish positive in your credit world.
Yeah, it's designed to help people. That's the whole purpose of these sessions. And obviously you're talking about budgeting and things like that. Mm-hmm. So, okay, so let's talk about credit cards. Mm-hmm. The typical person we help here at Hoyes Michaels owes around $17,000 on personal loans and lines of credit, and they owe almost $16,000 on credit cards. So it's the second biggest debt they owe, much larger than what they owe on income taxes, student loans, and other forms of debt. So it's a big problem. And of course, the problem is that the interest rate on credit cards are a lot higher than what you typically pay on a personal loan or a line of credit. So obviously, credit card debt is something to avoid. So let's say that one of our listeners gets a credit card offer in the mail, or they get offered a credit card when they walk into a store, or their friendly neighborhood bank teller, as you just described, is offering them a credit card. What should they be thinking about before they agree to sign up for a credit card? So
they should be thinking 3 major points is, why are they getting the credit card? So what are the benefits of it? It's convenient. A credit card is convenient when, I tell a lot of the clients, an emergency would be, I'm stuck in a parking garage. I can't get out. I need a credit card to get out. Well, it's convenient.
Be good to have one then.
It's convenient to get out of there. So another point to make is that credit cards do help establish and reestablish credit if your credit's not in a good spot. It's also great for rewards and points if you use it properly. So it's definitely based on a personal basis of why you're getting that credit card.
But is it also a risk then that if I'm getting a credit card for points, I can be spending too much on it then too?
That's right. So you just essentially everyone knows themselves is what I say. I say, you know what? If you don't trust yourself with a credit card, use it for gas. Fill up that tank. $50. You can't spend $100 at the gas station when your tank is $50.
Yeah, and I think obviously having access to credit is one of the dangers that people maybe aren't quite so cognizant of right from the outset. So for almost all of our clients, and you'd know this, they have credit card debt and it didn't happen overnight. It built up over time because they didn't consider their credit card just as the thing I put $50 worth of gas in.
Right.
It was, a way to borrow, and that becomes a significant problem. So normally at the end of the show, we hit the practical advice section, but let's just do that right now. You meet with people every day. They want to reestablish or build their credit. They want to do it by having a credit card. So give me your top 4 tips for people who want credit cards.
So when I see people, again, first thing is you only need one. Years ago, maybe MasterCard wasn't accepted at certain places, but Visa, MasterCard are the two top.
Pretty much everywhere.
Everywhere. You can use those cards online. You can use it traveling, whatever. It's focusing on, you essentially just need one. I don't really push for anything more than that, especially for reestablishing. You don't want to get back to the place where you were at before.
So 1 is better than 10 is what you're telling us here.
100%.
Okay, so you don't need to be signing up for every credit card offer that's out there. 1, maybe a maximum of 2, like you say. Maybe there's a place MasterCard isn't accepted, so I get a Visa or something like that. So
right.
Okay, so tip number 1, 1 credit card, maybe 2.
Right.
Second tip
is keep your credit limit low. You don't have to have a $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 credit card limit. What are you purchasing for that type of limit? Essentially what the credit card companies do is that they see, all right, you can handle $500. You're paying us back. You're making us money with that interest. You're paying interest on those products. So we will offer you more in hopes that you will continue to pay interest and continue making them money. So I tell people, keep it low. You don't need a credit card of $5,000, $10,000. What purchase are you making? And really reevaluate that. Unless you're going on a trip or saving for that, then yeah, sure, have a $5,000 limit. Keep that in the back of your mind. And like I said, it's good to have for trips and it's convenient factor, but you know yourself better. You don't need a limit of.
Yeah, and so the credit card company will automatically increase it if things are going well.
Well, they'll ask you. And the thing is what I find a lot of clients is, they will ask you, but they'll ask you when you need the money. Mm-hmm. So you're maxed out or close to being maxed out. So they'll say, hey, you're qualified. You're pre-qualified for another $2,000. They have to ask you by law, but majority of people that I see, they say yes because they're in a bind and, they've already essentially racked up that debt. So they need that money to get out.
So in your example where I'm going to be going on a trip, I'm going to be, paying for a lot of hotels and airlines and all the rest of it. So, okay, a $5,000 limit would be good. Mm-hmm. I get back from my trip. Would you recommend then calling up the credit card company and saying, okay, I'm not going on another trip for a year. Knock me back down to $1,000?
Yeah, you could. I mean, like I said, people know themselves better. If you went on this trip, you paid it off in full, which is the third point. You should be paying off your credit card in full every month. Then you can keep it up that high. Maybe you want to take trips every few years. I don't know. It's more of yourself better, but you don't need, like I said, you don't need an extensive credit limit.
Keep it limited. And then and you're right, paying your balance off every month. Like that's kind of like a no-brainer.
Right.
And I understand our clients get into trouble because they don't have the money to pay it off every month, and that's what causes the issues. But as a starting point, you got to pay it off every month because otherwise you're getting killed on interest. Right.
And I think that people forget that, when you get that statement, I think it was only recently in the past maybe 10 years that they started writing down, it's going to take you 82 years to pay off your credit card. And I mean, it's very small. It's in the corner. And people, I think, have this illusion that this minimum payment is all I'm required to pay. Well, yeah, to keep your credit, great. But to keep balances down to zero, you should be paying everything.
I met with a guy yesterday who told me it was 103 years.
Yeah.
So that's a record, I think. For
yesterday I saw somebody who was 54.
Yeah. So I mean that's insane. So
it was 54 years for $6,000 with a credit card debt.
Yeah, and this guy I think had 13,000, so it was about double. So it kind of makes sense that if you're only paying the minimum. So right. Okay, so 1 or 2 credit cards, keep your credit cards, your limit low, pay off your balance in full every month. What would your 4th tip be?
Also, you should plan out big purchases. So, I don't think everybody needs to buy a big TV every year, but those flashy ads, Black Friday, Boxing Day, those things come up and it's like, yeah, you know what? I really do want to buy a TV. Or if you want to reward yourself, plan out those big purchases, pay it off, have it saved, put it on the credit card, get the rewards, and pay it off and pay no interest. The banks don't like that. They want you to pay interest. They don't want to give rewards to people who pay off their balance in full, but that's what you should be doing.
Yeah.
It's just beneficial to you and to yourself in the long run.
So plan it out and take advantage of what you've got there. Okay,
That's
so
right.
that's good advice. Now, as I said in the opening, my problem with credit cards is the high interest rate.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about how that works. When does the bank start charging interest? So I know they don't start charging interest the moment I make a purchase. That's the whole beauty of having a credit card.
Right.
So how does it work? Do I get an automatic, 30 days grace period and then they start charging me interest? Is it always that way?
No. So the 30-day grace period is on every purchase they make, which is, it's not true. So people think, you know what, if I buy this 30 days from now, I'm not going to have to worry about interest. Well, it's a little bit more complicated than that. So what you need to know is two things: the billing cycle and the due date.
Billing cycle and due date. Okay, so
Right.
let's start with billing cycle. What does that mean?
So billing cycle starts there's a start date and there's an end date. It's typically 30 days, and it's typically the same every single month. So, for example, December 8th to January 7th, all purchases, cash advances, payments, anything you've done during this period would appear on your January 7th statement.
Yeah, and so my credit card statement is always around the same time of the month.
Right.
It gets cut off on the 7th or the 8th or the 9th. I get it in the mail or on my computer 2 or 3 days later. So that's
right.
my billing cycle.
Right.
Okay. And the other thing you said was the due date.
Correct.
So what's the difference then?
So the due date is when you must pay your bill or you will be charged interest, and pay your bill in full. Not just the minimum. So this is typically 21 to 25 days after the end of your statement period. So in our case, the statement ended January 7th.
Mm-hmm.
So our payment is due January 28th. So both your payment and both your statement period and due date will clearly be marked on the statement. It'll tell you. It has to be listed there.
There's no mystery to this. So if my statement date is January 7th or February, so it doesn't matter what month it is.
Right.
In this particular case, 21 days grace period, I've got 21 days to pay. So that means then that, okay, we're getting into numbers here. So
right.
Let's slow this down here. So am I getting 30 days to pay? Am I getting 21 days? Like how long is it until I am I going to be charged interest?
So this is what confuses people. So many people think they have 30 days interest free on everything they buy with their credit card, but they don't. They can actually have between 52 and 21 days from any individual purchase to pay it off. So if you charge something partway through your billing cycle, your real grace period on the purchase is the time between the date you put the purchase on and your due date.
So in the example you just gave, my statement ends on the 7th of the month.
Yes.
So if I bought something, let's just say exactly on the 7th,
right,
I'm going to have to pay for that 21 days later on the 28th. So I got 21 days free interest.
Right.
If I made the purchase the day after my statement, so on the 8th,
yes,
then I get 30 days on the statement plus another 21 days
that's
after
right.
that.
That's
and
right.
So that's where if you look at the calendar, okay, I guess I could get a maximum of 52 days without having to pay interest, but it could be as little as 21 days depending on when it falls.
And it's a good way to plan it out. So if you are maybe you do have a big purchase coming up and you do keep track of those billing cycles, if you make that purchase, well, essentially you have 52 days and start making payments towards it. You can make payments during your credit card period, the statement, or even before the due date. I tell people, once you spend something, pay it off right away. Don't even wait till the statement.
Well, and that's a key point, and that's why I'm of the belief that a credit card should be a substitute for cash. It should not be a way for borrowing. So, okay,
Correct.
in your example, I'm going out to buy that big screen TV, which costs $1,000 or whatever it is. I don't want to carry $1,000 cash with me, so I put it on my credit card. But there's no reason when I get home that I can't go online and transfer the $1,000 right into my credit card.
Exactly.
Boom. Or I guess if you want to get a little cuter and you understand how all these billing cycles work, it's like, okay, I know that the due date for this particular purchase is the 28th, so I'm going to go online and I'm going to program the payment to go on my credit card on the 27th.
Right.
And that way I'm good. So
Right.
lots of ways to handle that. So so you're saying that your method is the simple way. I don't need to be tracking what the due dates are and what, just pay it all the time, and
pay it out of sight, out of mind.
Out of sight, out of mind. And I'm a big believer. I believe I said it in the book. Every show I always get a plug in for my book, in case you're not familiar with how we do it in here. And
I am.
I'm very well familiar with how you like to plug your book everywhere. So and in the book I say, look, if you get paid every 2 weeks, why not make your payments every 2 weeks? So why not every 2 weeks log in, see what's owing on my credit card, put the payments through? There's no reason you can't do that. You don't have to be waiting till the last possible day.
Right.
So, okay. So really what you're saying then is a credit card is a substitute for cash. If you got the money in your bank account, then fine, use your credit card, pay it off.
Right.
It's nice and simple than that.
Exactly.
Okay. Now we've talked about purchases, but there's another thing you could do with credit cards.
Yes.
You've probably heard of this. I can get a cash advance. And this is very dangerous, obviously, because interest does not work the same for a cash advance as it works for a purchase. Am I right?
That's right. So the way cash advances work, and I'd see it all the time at the bank, a lot of people come in, and I would kind of steer people away from that because the way cash advances work, there is no interest-free grace period.
There is no interest-free grace period on a cash advance.
It is, you are charged interest that day. You also charged a fee to take that money out. I had a man come in at the bank once, and he was taking out $30, and I said, this is going to cost you $3.50 plus the interest. And yet he wanted to do it, but he had $30 in his bank account. I just didn't understand the logic of that. I said, you're paying money to borrow, which is silly.
And is that typical on all credit cards?
Yes.
I mean, I guess that's the kind of thing you can look at your statement and find out. Is there a cash advance fee? Obviously, there's interest. There's no doubt about that. Is there a fee? How much is it? And you're right. To borrow $30 and pay $3.50, that's a... I mean, that's
and that was like a few years ago. I don't even know what it is now.
It could be, and I mean, every credit card's different. They've all got different terms and whatnot. But that's something you definitely want to take a look at. So
exactly.
So no cash advances because you're getting hammered on the interest rate. Pay my balance by the due date, and I avoid interest. So let's go back to practical advice then.
Okay.
What are some ways then to avoid credit card debt? Because it's not the credit cards that are the problem, it's the debt that's the problem. So what advice have you got on that?
Well, I think that first thing is you should automate your payments. I think we talked about this. So if you pay every time you get paid, I think you have a YouTube video about this.
I'm sure I do. YouTube. You can do a search for it there. We'll put a link if we can.
The budget without budgeting.
Yeah, there you go. Yes,
right?
That's an excellent video. So we will put a link in the show notes and on the video for that.
So it essentially is, you know roughly how much. Like I said, I'll go back to the gas example. So if someone says, you know what, I get paid semi-monthly. Okay, so you get paid twice a month. So you fill up your tank 2 times during before the pay period. So you owe $100. Pay every single time you get paid, automate that so you pay $100 on your credit card. That is the easiest way to avoid any extra charges. And that way, like I said, out of sight, out of mind, you know it's getting paid, everything is up to date. And I mean, like I said, gas is the easiest thing to use an example because it's give or take $5 here or there, depending on the price. So automate your payments. That is a huge way to start paying off your balance in full. Easy way to do it.
And so conceptually how you do that is you say, well, okay, I know I'm putting $50 a week in my car, so I get paid every 2 weeks. So every 2 weeks on payday, I'll just automatically program it to put $100 on my credit card.
Right.
Boom. Don't have to worry about it. Okay, and that's, like you say, that way you're automatically making payments. You don't have to worry about it. Obviously, with a credit card, you're still going to want to look at your statement to make sure that, okay, I'm paying enough, I bought some other stuff or whatever, but automating it gets a big chunk of the payments out of the way.
That's right.
Okay, so tip number 1, automate your payments. Give me some more.
Second one is make a lot of small payments. So if you by chance are carrying a balance, you carry a balance over, there's some interest there, make anything you can towards that because that will help bring down the interest charges. You know, a mistake a lot of people do that I've seen, they come in, they show me their credit card statements and they're making $500 payments or $600 payments. And I say to them, you probably ended up using that credit card again because you gave more than what you could afford. So, I mean, if you get into a situation where you are making, where you do have a large balance, make small payments, chip away at it, and make affordable payments, because at the end of the day, it's counterproductive to put money towards it and then use it again for groceries. So making small payments is a big key.
Okay. And then you already talked about this. What's your stance on minimum payments? That's cool? We're good?
No,
that's
bad,
not cool.
bad.
Not good.
You don't want to just make minimum payments. Again, that's what gets you into the trap. I tell when people come in again for their sessions, I say on that credit card statement, you should be seeing minimum payment $10.
Mm-hmm.
It's either $10 or 3% of that balance. That's how credit cards work. So, you've paid off a full balance if you owe $10. That's just the minimum of what they require. And that shows there is no interest. There's no interest owing on that credit card from your previous balance.
Yeah, but you want to be paying a lot more than that, obviously, because that's the only way you're ever going to.
That's right. You want to see where it says, I mean, they bold that minimum payment due $10. Well, sure, that's $10. The full balance, well, yeah, pay off that full so that every single month the listed amount would be $10.
Yeah, the $10 minimum payment is the payment you make so that the bank earns the maximum amount of interest.
Correct.
That's really what it should say.
That's exactly what it is.
It shouldn't say minimum payment. It should say maximize the bank's profit. So, okay, so we've talked about payments, interest periods, all that sort of thing. Do you have any thoughts on the type of credit card I should be getting?
Yeah, so it's tough because I see people on their credit counseling sessions and I say, what do you want to, what's your 2-year goal? What's your 5-year goal? Because everyone's different. Not everybody wants to buy a house. Not everybody wants to travel. So the type of rewards that are out there, I tell them, I say, what do you like? Do you like Canadian Tire? Go to Canadian Tire, get the rewards. Do you like this store? Get the rewards, get the travel. Maybe people don't want to travel, but I mean, the rewards, I can't really say which one's best. It's what's best for you. So there's the risk, though, that people have that mentality of carrying a balance when they have those rewards. So they think, okay, I'm gonna get these grocery points. I'm gonna get these rewards. I did see a lady once, and she, I saw her for a consultation, and I said, you know what, proposal's probably best option. She agreed, and she was worried about losing her $100 in grocery money. And I said, well, you've paid more than that in interest. Her interest alone was over $200 a month. So it's that illusion that it's like, wow, I'm getting something for free. Well, you're not.
You pay $200 a month so that you could earn over a period of 6 months $100.
Exactly.
It just makes no sense.
Right.
So now you address the issue of rebuilding. And so someone comes in, they see us, they file a bankruptcy, a consumer proposal, they don't have any credit cards, they want to start reestablishing. So one of the ways to do that is with a secured credit card.
Right.
Because you almost for sure qualify for a secured credit card, even though you've gone through a bankruptcy or proposal. So what is a secured credit card? How do they work?
So secured credit cards are basically it's a deposit. You pay a deposit to a credit card company. You say, listen, they look at numbers. They don't care that you had a relationship breakdown, that you had mental health, that something happened in your family. They don't care. It's all about money and risk. You are high risk because your credit's not good. So what they say is, give us $300. We're going to put this $300 into an account. We're going to leave it there, and we'll give you a credit card for $300. You have to build that trust. So if you don't pay the $300, or if you don't pay your balance, they'll take that $300 and close off your card, and they're not out any money. So essentially it's putting a deposit down and protecting themselves because they don't know you and they don't really care.
Yeah, they've covered their risk. So they've got their security sitting there. So
right.
So obviously that's a way to, begin to establish credit and begin to improve your credit score. And
yes.
Everybody who listens to this podcast knows I'm not a big fan of people focusing on their credit scores. I mean, again, chapter 4 of the book, I talk about credit scores being for the benefit of the lender. They're not for your benefit. But I get it. If you've gone through a bankruptcy or a proposal and in the future, I want to finance a car, I want to buy a house, well, I need to begin to establish credit so I'll be able to borrow money in the future at reasonable rates. So let's end the show by having you give us some practical advice on rebuilding your credit score by using credit cards.
So again, two major things everyone should remember. One, make sure you can handle the credit, which means pay off your balance every single month. This is what I stress every session, that people, when people come in for proposals or bankruptcies and they say, how do I be with my credit? And I say, well, do you have money? Do you have savings first? Save money first, then get a credit card, because then you're not in the habit of relying on the credit card. You won't have that just in case type attitude of using the credit card for emergencies. So pay off the balance, pay it off each month.
Well, and having that cash in reserve means I don't need to be relying on the credit card then. So
that's right.
I need a new pair of boots. Okay, in the past, it would be put it on my credit card. Now it's, no, I've got the cash sitting there. I don't have to resort to the credit card. I get into the habit of having cash sitting there. And ultimately, if you want to rebuild and be in better shape in the future, that's the way you got to do it. It's relying on cash and your own savings rather than relying on credit cards is the trick. So
yeah, and also proving that you don't need all your credit. Again, the people that we see and the people that we help, they say, I say to them, did you go to your bank? Did you see if the bank would help you? Well, the banks don't want to see you use your maximum amount. You have a $15,000 Visa and it's maxed out at $15,000. That scares them. So be careful how much you put on that card, because at the end of the day, when you need that help, the bank is not going to help you.
Yeah, your credit score will be better if you are utilizing a smaller percentage, not a bigger percentage. If you're maxed out all the time, then your credit score is going to be hurt. So.
Yeah, so if you have a big limit, that's fine. Just make sure you pay off what you use in full.
Excellent. Diane, that's great practical advice. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So let me emphasize once again that there are lots of people who survive quite well without credit cards. They use their Visa debit card to make online purchases and book hotel rooms and buy stuff. So credit cards are not essential. However, I get it. They're convenient. They do have advantages. You just need to be smart and do everything in your power to avoid credit card debt. That's our show for today. Full show notes, including a transcript and links to everything we talked about today, and a link to the video of this podcast on our Debt Free in 30 channel on YouTube, can be found at hoyes.com. That's HOYES.com. Thanks for listening. Until next week, I'm Doug Hoyes. That was Debt Free in 30.